Your kidneys could be slowly failing, and you wouldn't even know it, silently. Deep inside your body, they're getting weaker, day by day, piece by piece, and slowly, they're taking your life with them, and the most dangerous part, you might be the one causing the damage by eating the very foods you believe are healthy. You think you're protecting your body, but in reality, your kidneys could be breaking down, moving toward a point where there is no way back, a point where your body starts to fail you, and life is never the same again. And the worst part is, you don't realize it until it's already too late. This video is about that truth. Not the foods you already avoid, but the ones you're still eating today, because you trust them and almost no one sees it coming. Until it's too late to fix. Over the past 2 decades, I've sat across from people who thought they were doing everything right. People who read labels, who walked every morning, who made deliberate, careful choices about what went into their bodies because they understood that health at this stage of life requires attention and intention. And then a single number on a routine lab report changed everything. Not dramatically, not with a crisis or a collapse, just a quiet clinical conversation in a doctor's office and a slow realization that something had been progressing inside their body for years while they were busy doing everything they believed was right. After working with hundreds of patients with declining kidney function, I've seen this same pattern more times than I can count. And what I've learned, what keeps me making these videos, is that the damage almost never comes from carelessness. It comes from trust. Trust in foods the wellness world placed on a pedestal for decades. Trust built from articles, from television segments, from well-meaning advice given without the full picture. Trust that was never questioned because nobody thought to question it in the context of aging kidneys. If you are over 60, I need you to pay very close attention to what I'm about to share, because what I'm going to walk you through today is not common knowledge. It is not on the label of any product you own, and for many people it arrives as information only after the window for easy action has already quietly closed. Here is something most people are never told at any point in their lives. After the age of 40, kidney function begins to decline roughly 1% every single year. That sounds small. It is not small. By the time someone reaches their late 60s, they may have already lost between 25 and 30% of their kidney filtering capacity. The National Kidney Foundation has documented this progression clearly and consistently across decades of research. No pain, no swelling, no signal of any kind, just a capacity diminishing, progressing, moving in one direction without pause, without announcement, without a single moment that feels different from the day before. Imagine a river that has been narrowing for years. The water still flows, life along its banks looks unchanged, but the channel is tighter than it was, the current is slower, and one day something arrives that the river can no longer carry, and everything that was held in balance begins to shift. That is what is happening inside the body of a person with declining kidney function who has never been told to eat differently. And this is where it gets dangerous, because the dietary advice most people over 60 are following was written for the kidneys they had 20 years ago. Recommendations designed for a river running full and wide, applied without adjustment to a channel that has been narrowing for years, the foods being consumed in good faith, the habits being maintained with discipline, the supplements being taken every morning as an act of genuine self-care, all of it calibrated to a body that no longer exists in quite the same way, and the damage builds unnoticed every single day. Tell me something, have you ever had your kidney function specifically tested? Not just general blood work, your EGFR. Leave a comment below, because the answer to that question matters more than most people realize. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why. The first food on this list is one that will surprise you. I want you to picture your kitchen, your refrigerator, the choices you've made deliberately, the ones that felt like investments in your own health and longevity. Dark leafy greens, spinach, kale, Swiss chard. These are the vegetables that health culture has elevated to near sacred status. They appear in every wellness article, every longevity study, every list of foods that thoughtful, health-conscious older adults should be eating more of. And for the majority of people with fully functioning kidneys, that guidance is sound. But this is the part most people never hear. Spinach is one of the highest oxalate foods on the planet. In a body with strong kidney function, oxalates are filtered and excreted without any difficulty. They pass through the system and leave without incident. You never think about them. But in a body where kidney function has already begun to decline, and for a significant portion of people over 60, it has oxalates don't leave the way they should. They stay, They move through the bloodstream and bind with calcium, and what they form together are tiny, microscopic crystals that settle deep inside the kidneys. Most delicate filtering structures. Picture it this way. Deep inside your kidneys are millions of microscopic filtering units, intricate, impossibly fine channels through which your blood passes and is cleaned. Those crystals begin to accumulate inside those channels, slowly at first, then more, causing inflammation around them, triggering scar tissue that forms and thickens and does not go away. And with every layer of scarring, the channel narrows a little more, the filtering capacity drops a little further. Research published in the American Journal of Kidney Diseases has confirmed this connection, specifically in older adults with reduced kidney function. Pause for a moment and let that settle. Not the result of fast food, not the consequence of a poor diet, the result of eating spinach every day with complete confidence that it was one of the best things you could do for your health, and the number keeps dropping without any warning. Out a single sign. But the oxalate burden is only part of what dark leafy greens are doing, because spinach and kale also carry one of the highest potassium loads of any food in the vegetable kingdom. A single cup of cooked spinach contains over 800 milligrams of potassium. In a kidney operating at full capacity, that excess is cleared from the blood quickly and efficiently. It never becomes a problem. But in a kidney that is filtering at 60 or 55% of what it once was, potassium doesn't clear the way it should. It remains in the blood. It accumulates like pressure rising slowly in a system with no release valve until it reaches concentrations that begin interfering with the electrical signals that regulate the rhythm of the heart. Think carefully about what that means. Someone eating spinach every day specifically to support their cardiovascular health, and the potassium building in their blood because their kidneys can no longer remove it efficiently, is placing that same heart under a different kind of threat entirely, one that is invisible, one that no one is monitoring, one that arrives through a door that was supposed to be protected. This isn't a rare edge case. This is what I've seen happen again and again in patients who were genuinely trying. The adjustment here is not complicated. Romaine, lettuce, cabbage, cauliflower, green beans. These vegetables carry a fraction of the oxalate and potassium burden and offer real, meaningful nutrition that supports the kidneys rather than compounding the pressure they're already under. A simple change, a significant difference. And for some people, the difference between stability and a number that keeps moving in the wrong direction. Now I want to talk about something so woven into daily life that it has stopped feeling like a choice at all. The person who walks every morning, who has made movement a non-negotiable part of their routine because they understand correctly that staying active is one of the most powerful things an older adult can do for their long-term health. They lace up their shoes, they head out into the morning, and before they go, or when they return, they reach for an electrolyte drink, a sports beverage, something that the label says supports hydration, heart health, replenishment. It feels responsible. It feels like exactly the kind of thoughtful habit a health-conscious person maintains. And this is where things quietly go wrong. Inside most of those bottles sits a combination of potassium, phosphate compounds, and sodium in concentrated, rapidly absorbed forms being delivered daily into a body whose kidneys are already managing more than they appear to be. A standard sports drink delivers 30 to 50 milligrams of potassium per serving alongside phosphate additives included for flavor and shelf stability. That number sounds inconsequential on its own, but here is what most people never consider. It never arrives on its own. It arrives on top of the 800 milligrams of potassium already consumed in the morning's spinach, on top of the phosphorus from the whole grain toast at breakfast, on top of the senior multivitamin taken before any food was eaten, and for kidneys filtering at 60% of their original capacity. The combined weight of all of it arriving faithfully every single day as a series of individually reasonable choices becomes something the body is quietly unable to manage, like adding weight to a bridge that is already holding more than it was designed for. No single addition breaks it, but the cumulative load does what no single choice could do alone. This is where most people go wrong. Not in one visible dramatic decision, in dozens of small ones, each responsible, each well-intentioned, that no one ever examined as a whole, and by the time the body begins to signal that something is wrong, the damage may already be significant. For most older adults doing moderate daily exercise, plain water is genuinely sufficient. The body does not require commercial electrolyte replacement for a morning walk or a gentle fitness class. Water with a small pinch of sea salt and a squeeze of lemon, if something beyond plain water is desired, provides meaningful support without the hidden phosphate burden that a kidney under pressure struggles to process. The habit feels the same. The impact on the body is entirely different. There is a larger shift happening in how many Americans over 60 are approaching food, and it comes from a genuinely intelligent place. The move toward plant-based protein, guided by decades of cardiovascular research and physicians who correctly identified red meat and saturated fat as contributors to heart disease. Millions of older adults have made deliberate transitions toward lentils, chickpeas, black beans, and edamame, foods that feel clean, thoughtful, aligned with everything the science seems to be saying. The heart health benefits of this shift are real. They are not in question here, but this is the part almost no one tells you. And if you're over 60, this may be the most important thing in this entire video. Legumes and beans are among the highest phosphorus and potassium foods in the entire plant kingdom. 1 cup of cooked lentils delivers approximately 730 milligrams of potassium and close to 360 milligrams of phosphorus. For someone with already reduced kidney function, that is a substantial daily burden on a system working at its limit just to maintain the chemical equilibrium the rest of the body depends on. Here is how to picture what phosphorus accumulation actually does inside the body. Your kidneys are responsible for keeping phosphorus levels in the blood within a very precise, narrow range. When they're functioning well, excess phosphorus is removed efficiently. But when filtration capacity drops, phosphorus begins to accumulate in the blood, and the body, sensing that imbalance, begins pulling calcium from the bones to try to compensate. That calcium enters the bloodstream, and as it circulates through blood vessels already under stress, it begins depositing on their walls, calcifying them from the inside, stiffening them, narrowing them. The very mineral accumulating because the kidneys are struggling is now accelerating damage to the heart and blood vessels at the same time, one problem feeding another, both progressing, neither visible from the outside. Research in the Journal of Renal Nutrition specifically identifies legumes as a category requiring careful monitoring in patients with kidney disease, not because they are harmful in general, but because the phosphorus they contain challenges kidneys that no longer have the capacity to handle it efficiently. And what makes this particularly difficult is the story playing out on the surface. The cardiologist is pleased, the cholesterol numbers improve, the inflammation markers look better. Every visible measurement is moving in the right direction, and in the background, unmonitored, accumulating, progressing beneath the reach of tests anyone is currently running, the phosphorus load is quietly accelerating a different kind of damage entirely. One problem visibly improving, another one deepening in the dark, and by the time someone connects those dots, the damage to the kidneys may already be permanent. Eggs, certain white fish, and modest portions of lean poultry tend to carry lower phosphorus loads relative to their protein content. For people in the early stages of kidney decline, they often serve as a more manageable daily foundation, one that protects both the heart and the kidneys rather than trading one for the other. A conversation worth having with a physician who knows your specific numbers. I want to pause here for a moment, because I think this deserves to be said directly. Everything described so far follows the same painful shape, and in 20 years of clinical work, I have watched it unfold. More times than I want to count. Good people, careful people, people who genuinely invested in their own health and the health of the people they loved. People who took their supplements every morning without fail, ate their greens, chose the plant-based option, reached for the electrolyte drink because someone they trusted told them it was the right thing to do. And harm arrived through the very door they thought they had closed. There is a specific kind of weight that settles over a person when they understand that. It isn't anger usually. It's something closer to grief. The grief of having tried so hard for so long and still arrived somewhere painful because the information they needed never reached them at the moment it could have made a difference. I've witnessed that moment many times. It never becomes easier to sit with, and it is precisely why this conversation exists, not to frighten anyone, not to make eating feel like a minefield, but because knowing at the right moment changes what is still possible. And right now for you, that moment is here, which brings me to the fourth thing, and this one lives somewhere most people would never think to look for danger. The supplement shelf, the bottles lined up on the kitchen counter or the bathroom cabinet taken each morning without a second thought because a physician once mentioned them or an article recommended them, or they simply felt like the responsible thing for someone at this stage of life to do. Senior formulas, bone support complexes, immune health blends, heart health multivitamins, packaging designed to feel reassuring, tailored, thoughtful, made specifically for this chapter of life. And many of these products contain potassium, phosphorus, and vitamin D at levels that are entirely appropriate for a healthy older adult with strong, fully functioning kidneys. But here is where it gets complicated and where the damage is most hidden. For someone whose kidneys have already begun their unannounced decline, these same capsules taken faithfully every morning as one of the most consistent acts of self-care in their entire day can deliver a daily mineral load that the kidneys are no longer equipped to process efficiently. Vitamin D requires particular attention because it does not behave like most vitamins. It is fat-soluble, meaning it does not wash out of the body in urine the way water-soluble vitamins do. It accumulates, and at elevated levels it significantly increases the amount of calcium. The intestines absorb from food that calcium enters the bloodstream, and as that calcium-enriched blood circulates through kidneys already filtering under reduced capacity, calcium deposits begin to form inside the kidney's most delicate structures, calcifying the very channels that make filtration possible. Picture calcium, the mineral most associated with strength and protection, slowly hardening the filters your kidneys depend on to keep you alive, taken every morning as an act of care, with no indication that anything is wrong. Let that sink in. Research published in the Clinical Journal of the American Society of Nephrology has examined this specifically. In older adults who supplement vitamin D without regular monitoring of their calcium levels and kidney function, the pattern it reveals is one of the quietest and most preventable forms of progressive kidney damage documented in this age group. Bring every supplement you currently take, not a written list, the actual bottles, to your next appointment. Ask your physician to review each one in the context of your kidney function number. If your EGFR is below 60, ask specifically whether kidney-appropriate alternatives exist for what you are currently taking. Most do, most cost no more, and removing that daily, hidden burden from an organ that has no way to ask for help is one of the simplest, most impactful steps available to you right now. Most people never think to do this, and the number keeps dropping without a single warning. And that brings me to the fifth and most fundamental thing of all, the one that sits beneath everything else in this conversation and determines whether any of it can be acted on in time. You cannot protect something you don't know is at risk. The EGFR estimated glomerular filtration rate is a number calculated from a standard blood draw. It tells you with real and meaningful precision exactly how well your kidneys are performing the function they exist to perform. It costs nothing additional when ordered alongside blood work you're likely already having done, and for a significant portion of adults over 60, it is the single most important number they have never been told to ask for. Above 90 means the kidneys are functioning well, between 60 and 89 mildly reduced, often stable, but worth knowing and worth watching. Below 60, this is where everything changes, where a green smoothie, a bowl of lentils, a daily sports drink, and a handful of trusted supplements stop being a picture of healthy aging and begin becoming a daily accumulation of burden on an organ that is no longer equipped to bear it silently. Below 45, the urgency grows considerably. Below 30, the conversation becomes a very different one, and far more difficult to have, and none of those thresholds feel different from the inside. An EGFR of 52 feels exactly like an EGFR of 88. You walk the same, you sleep the same, you wake up in the morning and take your supplements and prepare your careful breakfast and head out for your walk and feel completely and genuinely like someone who is doing everything right, and the number moves anyway, progressing, building, heading toward a place where most people cannot come back from, until someone asks the right question at exactly the right time. That question is available to you. It costs nothing to ask, and what it reveals may be the most consequential piece of information you receive this year. So here is what I want you to do. Not a long, complicated overhaul. 3 clear steps, specific, actionable, beginning before your next appointment ends. First, ask your doctor for your EGFR, not just your creatinine level, your EGFR. Write those 4 letters down right now. Somewhere you will see them before you walk into that appointment. That single number will tell you whether everything discussed in this video is a general awareness or an immediate personal priority that cannot wait. Second, for the next 3 days, pay honest attention to what is actually entering your body. Turn your supplement bottles over. Read the ingredient labels on the sports drinks and packaged foods in your kitchen. Look specifically for the word phosphate in any form. Sodium phosphate, disodium phosphate, phosphoric acid. These are inorganic phosphates, absorbed by the body at nearly 100% efficiency, and they appear in far more products than most people realize. You don't need to discard anything today, just know what is there. Awareness is where protection begins. Third, if your EGFR comes back below 60, ask specifically for a referral to a renal dietitian, not a general nutritionist. A renal dietitian, someone trained exclusively in kidney nutrition who will build an eating plan around your actual numbers, your actual kidney function, your actual life, not a generalized framework designed for someone with entirely different kidneys than yours. Those 3 steps before anything else, because early action and late action do not produce the same outcomes, and the difference between them is simply knowing and knowing soon enough to matter. Your kidneys filter 200 liters of blood through your body every single day. They regulate the potassium balance that keeps your heart beating in its proper rhythm. They manage the phosphorus levels that determine whether your blood vessels remain open or begin quietly calcifying from within. They maintain the precise chemical equilibrium that every organ in your body depends on silently, continuously, without a single moment of rest. And they do all of this without sending you a signal, without an alarm, without any indication of how close to the edge they may already be. They deserve one question at your next appointment. One question, 30 seconds, 4 letters. And what the answer reveals may change the entire direction of what comes next. If you are over 60 or if you love someone who is, I'm asking you not to keep this to yourself. Share this video with that person, the one who walks every morning, who takes their supplements faithfully, who eats their greens and drinks their electrolyte water and believes, completely and sincerely, that every one of those choices is adding years to their life. They deserve to know what you now know, because by the time the body begins to send a warning, by the time a symptom appears that is impossible to ignore, the kidneys may already be too far gone to recover. That is not a dramatic statement. That is the clinical reality of how kidney disease progresses in this age group. And it is the reason that the most powerful thing available to anyone right now is simply knowing their number before the window for action has passed. Knowing changes what is possible. And right now, that knowledge is yours to pass on. Before you go, one final and important thing. Everything shared in this video is general health education offered with genuine care and the sincere hope that it reaches people while there is still time to act meaningfully. It is not a substitute for a conversation with your own physician who knows your complete medical history, your current medications, and the full individual picture of your health. Kidney disease is complex and deeply personal, and the right approach for you may differ from anything discussed here. Please bring your questions to a doctor you trust, someone who can look at your specific numbers and guide you accordingly. And if you begin nowhere else, begin by asking for your EGFR. That number belongs to you. You have every right to know it, and knowing it today rather than later may be the most important health decision you make this year.